What's up everyone? Alex here. One of my favorite reasons for playing JRPGs is the story, and if you love narratives just as much as I do, then you're gonna enjoy Coffee Talk 2, Hibiscus, and Butterfly. If you're the kind of person who's looking for deeper gameplay and all that stuff, you probably won't. Although maybe making coffee and tea and lattes might sound interesting to you. As stated, Coffee Talk Episode 2 Hibiscus and Butterfly is the sequel to Coffee Talk, which is one of my favorite visual novels of 2020. What makes Coffee Talk so fascinating when compared to other typical visual novels is that it belongs in a subgenre of games where you act as the barista, serving customers with different drinks and partaking in their life story. In a way, this is like an anthology, and if you played something like Live Alive or Octopath Traveler recently, then you've experienced this sort of storytelling. For people who haven't, anthologies attempt to bring disparate stories together under one roof. In this case, all of these stories are told within the coffee shop known as Coffee Talk. What's great about Coffee Talk's anthologies is that the anthologies revolve around a person or specific groups, and they kind of intersect with one another. And this is all because of the mutual patronage of this coffee shop. Coffee Talk is set in an alternate reality Seattle, Washington, where fantastical creatures like vampires, banshees, and the like are part of human society. And as you can imagine, they are patrons of the Coffee Talk coffee shop. The gameplay loop revolves around getting through an entire day's worth of work by listening to other people's stories and giving them the drinks that they ask for, while also giving people some items that they have lost, which is actually brand new to Coffee Talk Episode 2. This new lost and found mechanic kind of reminds me of old school point-and-click adventure games, except of course, you gotta figure out who actually owns these items and who's gonna use them. There's no penalty for having mistakes or making bad drinks, but the palpable disappointment on your patrons' faces is enough for you to want to do better the next time. Speaking of the drinks, you can do a whole bunch of stuff, like put latte art on it, redo it if you don't think it's the drink that your patron wants, and the way that you come up with recipes is really simple. You just mix 3 ingredients and that's practically it. Nothing more complicated than that. But I will say that there are certain instances in Episode 2 where serving the right drink is actually important to progress the story in a very specific way. After all, this is a visual novel and there is a true ending. But that's not to say that you get a bad ending in this game. What the true ending actually gives you is just more clarity as to what's going on in the background. Maybe something that you'd never noticed before, that you'll probably see in a different light once you see this new ending. And for folks who say, oh, I really just don't have time for this game, I have other games to play, what's really cool about Coffee Talk is that every day is kind of like an episode of a TV show. So for example, if you play through just one day of Coffee Talk, you can literally just like save the game and continue it the following day or the day after or even a week later. Point being is that it's actually really easy to disconnect from the game and also come back to it. And what's actually really cool about that is that when you come back to it much later and you see the same people, you immediately kind of remember like what these people were all about. And that exact feeling, that feeling right there, is similar to seeing an old friend, someone who you haven't seen in a long time. And I think that's a magical experience that I don't see a lot in visual novels, but certainly unique to this specific genre. Perhaps the other question that people will want to ask is, well, this is Episode 2, do I have to play the first game? I'm of two minds regarding this question. For one, I don't actually think that you need to play the first game, because I think Episode 2 is just as good at onboarding you as the first game. And while there are familiar characters returning from the first game, I don't necessarily think it's bad to play them out of order, especially given that Episode 2 actually gives pretty good context as to who these people are through their dialogue alone or the use of your in-game mobile app. In a way, there's something poetic about just walking into a coffee shop, sitting down on a chair, and just kind of observing everything around you. And I think that's kind of the mood that's portrayed for anyone who's brand new to the series. Like there's a sense of peace just by observing and taking in all these inputs. Now, while I wouldn't exactly say that the game has a retro vibe, the style of presentation in Coffee Talk Episode 2, and by proxy the entire series so far, is nothing short of fantastic for me. It isn't exactly representative of the 8-bit/16-bit era of games, but this pseudo-retro look really gives Coffee Talk a different flavor than most other visual novels of its type, and the earthy tones of its walls and its environs gives a great sense of place in an otherwise very minimalistic presentation. It also helps that the music is fantastic and really enhances the ambiance. Several of the characters actually reference these songs, and it's really nice to see that sort of detail in the storytelling. And in case you're curious, there's no voice acting in Coffee Talk, which of course is a shame, but to me this isn't necessarily a deal breaker of any sort. The prose and the writing of Coffee Talk Episode 2 is still fantastic. But you're probably wondering to yourself, Alex, you're a barista at this coffee shop. What is the point of all this? Well, to me, one of the reasons why I absolutely love Coffee Talk Episode 2, and by proxy, Coffee Talk 1, is because it actually simulates the idea of meeting brand new people extremely well, especially for its minimalist presentation. You're just there doing your job, and these people just kind of come in and want a drink, and they discover that this is a place that they want to hang out in a lot more. It's a place where they could be themselves without the ails of everything that's happening in the outside world. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people love going to coffee shops in general, is because it serves as their third home. I feel like whenever I play Coffee Talk, I feel like I am in that third home. And of course, all of my patrons are part of this same family of friends. It's very heartwarming and very encouraging. And as you can probably tell, there are highs and lows, as with any story. And I have to stress again that the dialogue writing is absolutely fantastic, especially given that every single character has their own speech cadence and the way that they express themselves, breathing more life into these characters. Simply put, Coffee Talk is that part-time job that you can always come back to at any time, especially if you want to break from the rigmarole of your daily JRPG grinds. It's a very short game, like less than 10 hours, and even shorter if you're not trying to unlock all of the drinks in the game, and the resulting stories will warm your heart. And whether or not you play Episode 2 or Episode 1 doesn't really matter, because what you get at the end of the day is the satisfaction of meeting new people and having brand new stories to tell.